All right, we're live.
All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Jay Timms with Legendary Leaders. I'm an organizational psychologist, and it's my pleasure today to be here with my fabulous co-host, Denise Belil, who's a serenity expert. And today we're going to be spending a little bit of time getting to know our new friend, Archana Krishnamurthy, who is a leadership coach, mentor, and trainer, and her company is called Conscious Living Center. So Archana, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Jay. Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
And it's wonderful to be here. I'm so looking forward to it.
So it's like 6:30 in the morning there where you're at. Are you awake yet? You ready to do this?
I'm a 5 a.m. person, so that should be okay for me. I'm happy.
That's fantastic. Well, it's great to get to know you. You know, we've connected here through the I Support Your Business and through the World Referral Network. And so that's how we're making this connection today. And it's really an opportunity for us to get to know you and a little bit about what you do in your business and for you to help us recognize what we can do to support you in your business and how your clients can find you. So it's fantastic to have you here today. So tell me a little bit about conscious living. What is conscious living and then how does that all work?
Sure. So conscious living, according to me, is like living with awareness. Now, the question is awareness about what? And in short, if I may say, it's about awareness about life, awareness about who we are, and awareness about why are we here, in short. And if I have to just expand on that a little bit,
Please.
I would say it's like, if I talk about life, what is there to become aware of? And one of the few quick things I would say is just become aware of the two dimensions of life. There is material and there is spiritual, and there is enough and more evidence being presented even by science today. So that's one thing. What is there for us to be aware of about ourselves? Again, 4 dimensions of us actually. One is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And we have, as we know, there are different kind of intelligences provided to us to manage this to the best so that we can live our life in the best possible manner. And most of us don't know any other form of intelligence than what we refer to as the IQ, which is related to our brain or mind. But there is, what is called probably PI, which is the physical intelligence. There is EI, which is emotional intelligence. And then there is, of course, SQ or SI, which is the spiritual intelligence. So it's all about becoming conscious and then living your life to the fullest according to that. That is what I would say is conscious living.
That's fantastic. And you know what's really interesting is that as you know, I've gone through the research over the years, really, up until recently, what most people talked about in regard to intelligence and awareness was really IQ. And so what you're suggesting here is that there are more dimensions to the person, and IQ may be a portion of it. And again, all the research is really saying, yeah, okay, it's important, but there's a lot of other things that are important about making us who we are and allowing us to be able to function in life more effectively. Am I hitting that right?
Absolutely. And where we are at a tragic curve is all our younger days, we are being taught how to better our IQ.
Yep.
And then when you are going up the ladder, then you say for leadership, actually, EQ is what matters, guys. So where is your EQ? so that's the tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when people are, you can elaborate on that if you may, when people are going through, for example, the school system or learning or university and moving on, we all have different kind of intelligence for learning too, right? We have a kinesthetic intelligence. We have a auditory intelligence. Some people learn a lot differently. And sometimes people that have a really high IQ, they can't learn the same way as other people because their strengths are on other kind of intelligence. So are you touching that into your work and your research?
Oh, absolutely. One of the basic elements we have missed out, as a world, I think, is we are made unique for a purpose. So, whoever or whatever is our creator, I think spent all these extra time to make us all unique for some reason out there. Yep. So very, very importantly, that uniqueness is not being tapped into. So we all are, through our schooling system, whatever education system we have, we are actually mechanizing human beings and making them robots. And then we are saying, oh, AI will take over human beings. Of course, because you actually first converted human beings into machines. And then, of course, machines are going to take over human beings. But if we can stay as human beings, I think we have a lot of scope still in the world out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that AI is going to free human being to become human being as opposed to human doing.
I so agree with you. Absolutely.
That's
Steve?
interesting. We could go on a tangent there because
Yes.
AI is one of my
Oh, yeah.
little kind of pet projects and stuff. But something that you said, Archana, that reminds me about a piece of research that I read just recently. I believe it was from the Harvard Business Review, and they did research on emotional intelligence, and they showed that CEOs and top executives have the lowest level of compassion and emotional intelligence out of all of the groups of leaders. As you start at frontline people, it goes up to a middle manager and then reduces per capita. So, I hear what you're saying there. So tell me a little bit about, how did you get into this? Like, what's your background? How did you really get into this field, and why this one?
Sure. So my professional life, of course, started almost 30 years ago. And that was with a Chambers of Commerce and Industry in India. So I was into those different, what we call as desks, starting from environment, energy, TQM to telecom, IT, and so on. And then after almost a decade, I actually started on my own as a management consultant. I became an advisor. And a little later, I took up a certification in coaching and I started doing coaching and so on. It was in 2010, and I so distinctly remember how my life changed. And I would say I was introduced to my calling. And this happened with a small, tiny news on the front page of a leading daily in India called Times of India, where I read about a 13-year-old girl committing suicide because of homework pressure. Yeah, it took time to, wrap my head around it. It was like 13-year-old should not even know the word suicide. Forget about committing. That girl has not even started her life. Uh, Homework of all the things, I mean, not even exam for God's sake, right? It's homework. So I was like, okay, that has to be only something that's superficial that people have figured out to be the reason and stuff. And the little tiny girl couldn't have yet done anything to deserve this.
Mm-hmm.
So immediate thing that struck me was, what are we adults around these children doing so bad to push them to that point? And that immediately got me. I mean, I was kind of possessed with this. Like I was doing research, introspection, everything. And frankly, with all of that, what I realized was astonishing for me. And I almost dropped everything else I was doing and I dived into it, because what I realized is most of us are conflicted within ourselves between the life you're meant to live and the life you're living. And part of the reason is what Dennis you mentioned about, how we are all being pushed into doing the same thing without really taking care of what our unique strengths are, etc. And that conflict, my obvious question was, why is that there? And then I realized, I would say that is because we are missing out on foundational education on two very important things. Whether it's formal education or informal education. And that is about what is life and who are we before we start living. It comes back to that, because what I realized is from the time even you're conceived nowadays, people will start teaching you, ABC 1, 2, 3, twinkle, twinkle to Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. So a 5 or 8-year-old can talk about, 5 minutes on Steve Jobs. But if you say, okay, why don't you talk about you or life? And the child will look at you. Yeah, it's like, what are you even asking, lady? Like, what are you talking about, right? So I think I realized that this education was critical, because otherwise we are all busy, so-called living, but then we are all ending up being frustrated, or depressed, irritated, all of those things, because we have really not understood
Mhm.
how to live, and you just got busy living. So if I may just tell a small story, if that's okay with you guys,
Sure.
I would say for me, the way I visualized this was like there is a soccer field and everybody is busy playing soccer. And, kids are born around the soccer field. And from the time you're born, you're told, hey, listen, baby, as soon as you start walking, you will be thrown into that field. And that's what you're supposed to do. And that's all is the information that's available. And the kid is just watching from where he or she is growing up from and just sees that people are running from one end to the other on the ground. And they are all after seemingly a ball. And if the ball goes into one of those things like goalpost, then everybody seems to be celebrating. So that's it, right? That's all you need to do. But by chance, if you are still at any moment on the ground, then people are going to crush you. You might die, that's what the child thinks. So as soon as the child is thrown into this field, the child is just running from one end to the other, so that just to save oneself. And then by chance, he come across the ball, and then, yeah, I would say by chance, because he has no training in hitting the ball, hits the ball and it goes into a goal post, and the kid is like elated. Wow, I did it. But when he looks around, nobody is celebrating with him. In fact, the referee is tapping on his shoulder and saying, hey kid, I think you need to come out of the ground. You haven't got it right. You need to first learn about it. That was a self goal.
Mm.
This kid is like, don't do this with me. You are changing the rule. So far what I observed was anytime the ball went into the goal post, you were celebrating. When I did it, you are now saying it's wrong. So anyways, the referee tries to convince the child, what, why don't you just, go out of the field, first learn about it, then come back. You will know a little more how to play this well. And the child says, no, hey, I am very busy. I'm in demand. I'm already in the game. If I go out, I'm not sure I can come back. And how do you do that? So I'll do one thing. I'll play as long as I can. And when I retire, I promise you, I'm going to go to whoever you're saying and I'll learn everything about how to, whatever you want to hear.
Mm.
So this guy is busy playing all his life without knowing which team he is playing for, what is the game he's playing, which position he could have played best from, and
Mhm.
having no training in the whole thing. So I just felt kind of, we all are living that kind of life around without knowing anything about life.
So let me ask you a question. I've been in executive roles for 25 years, led multi-million dollar companies, built my own companies, those sort of things. How does this apply to me? Like, how are you going to take your knowledge and what's that going to do for me as an executive and as a leader?
Okay. So first off, I think when we refer to as the emotional intelligence that we were talking about, right?
Yep.
A lot of us like miss out on that because we all are kind of getting a training from the world around us that it's all about the targets, success, how well we do on certain fronts that are decided by somebody else. But we all know there are different things that makes us happy. What makes you happy may be very different than what makes me happy and what makes Dennis happy. So I just feel first, if we can figure out what works for us and what does not work for us, when we are in a leadership position and when we are able to influence our team, our connects, our family, that would automatically actually help us help them find that zone for themselves. And what we call as living as per our potential. We are all thinking we are doing quite okay, quite well, in fact. But is that our best potential?
Mhm.
Is that what we are really meant to do? For example, just to take an example, in my own case, I have been a serial entrepreneur, established money companies. I was doing all these things that I mentioned. And I thought, I'm quite okay with my life. I'm doing okay. But the day I was introduced to my calling, all my innate gifts, from my speaking ability to the ability to naturally make great connects, to seeing how people seem to trust me without me making much of an effort, everything came together, and I realized I was gifted with something, and all my life lessons were meant to come together to imagine helping people carry on with their lives. And today I have examples of at least a dozen people who were on that verge of jumping off the cliff and giving up on their life. And they just connected with me. And all it took, frankly, was one heart to heart conversation for them to come back, and they're all leading a great life. So I'm like, wow, I did so much, but nothing like this. So, it's just about that difference, from where you are to where you could be and how you can help others get there.
Great. Denise, do you have any further questions before we let Archana go today?
Yeah, I'd love to know, like, who's your ideal person to work with? Like, because you mentioned children, you mentioned CEOs, like a different level of people, but who do you usually look to people to work with?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, Denise. Thank you for asking. So basically, if you see for what I'm trying to do and to cover up this bit of gap of education,
Yeah.
ideal target would be 0 to 12-year-olds actually.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized is 0 to 12 are actually quite sorted if they are left to be who they are. It's the adults around them who are actually messing up their lives. So I realized while the younger ones may need clarity, the older ones need to unlearn a lot of stuff the way we are doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have actually, designed programs for all the 4 verticals, like what I call as the leaders or influencers, with a program like I call conscious leadership, for parents who can do a lot here with conscious parenting, for teachers community, conscious facilitation, and find your calling for the rest. So through that, but then, still, if you ask me, today's focus for me is 15 to 35-year-olds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
before they get into a career, before they get married, before they have children, if I can get that for a little while, I believe I can make some difference out there.
Yeah. And where is your work? Can you work all around, like with people all around the planet, or is it one-on-one that you have to meet with people?
No, actually now with technology, I would say geographical locations really don't matter. And as such, with the coaching part of it, we have always been virtual. So to say, in fact, doing it virtually is more effective, we have found, than doing it in person. Mm-hmm. And so we have both channels of B2C and B2B. Yeah. So we have a way to do both. And at the moment, as we are speaking, my LMS is getting ready. And I'm very, very soon, I should be launching that to actually reach out to many more people. And that's why this has come at such a perfect time. And I'm really hoping that through you guys, I'm going to reach out to a larger community that I can serve.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is really amazing, and we'll have to have a one-on-one conversation, because for me, being a serenity expert, right, and working with people's mindset and everything you said, I could align with. And I'm also, you didn't talk about that intelligence, but I'm a certified positive intelligence coach. So I'd love to talk with you about that too.
Absolutely. I would look forward to Dennis anytime.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Ladies, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure meeting with both of you today. Archana, congratulations. And we appreciate your insights. And we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow on our next interview. So take care, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.